Hi, Mr. Sermons. How are you?
I'm good, Ms. Reese. How about yourself?
Good. Good. Well, welcome to episode one of Rural Education in Alabama Schools, a podcast. Want to just loop everybody in real quick and say, guys, we got Mr. Russell Sermons here with us, um, a dear friend of mine, an educator that I respect gratefully, and knew that he would be the guy I'd want to bring on here for episode one. Um, give you a little background. Spent early years in rural West Alabama. Started his teaching career and kind of cut his teeth per se there in northern Jefferson County in a rural area teaching, and then that's kind of where he got his admin start as well. And then now is not currently in a rural district, but I think that gives him a unique perspective to be able to see challenges from both sides of the spectrum. And I've seen both from a student, a teacher, and an administrator. So that just gives him a wide range of perspectives and understandings of the needs of both of those settings. So welcome. Glad to have you.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Well, I just wanted to kind of loop everyone in. So the study that I had been doing is in a rural town named Slocomb. It's in southeastern Alabama in Geneva County, kind of an outskirt of Dothan. I know most people have at least heard of Dothan. Home of the tomato, home of the tomato festival every year, and Red Tops football. I do have some family ties there. Spent a lot of time down there. The community is near and dear to my heart. I have a first cousin that has taught fifth grade at Slocomb Elementary for 18 years. That's all she's ever been. So I want to give that backstory and kind of lead into rural schools' commitment to sustainable change. And when we talk about change, I think we have to talk about the things of teacher retention, being able to provide high quality instruction, being able to provide equal access to educational opportunities, engaging the community and stakeholders, and being able to provide an equitable education for students in rural communities as opposed to of urban communities. So, from what Mr. Sermons, from your perspective, what does sustainable change look like for a rural school like Slocomb? And what do you think those steps would take to make sure that the change that we're making is sustainable?
I think you identify your problems first, your needs, do an assessment baseline. Then you kind of go into actionable steps. So what's your roadmap for where you're trying to go? Obviously, you're going to implement that roadmap, and then you're constantly evaluating. And to be sustainable, it's something that can be carried beyond year 1, 2, and 3. And so for sustainable change for a rural community, I think you have to just really be able to kind of have a constant evaluation of the needs of the community. They're ever changing, having a growth mindset when it comes to what the world looks like for the future of our students as they progress in their rural community. But just making sure you continue to assess and check over your data, use data-driven decision-making to make sure that you're able to, keep the momentum going forward.
So the sustainability portion there is really just kind of strategically identifying the need, and then the action steps of clearly aligning and unifying our educational team and how we're going to get to where we're needing to go. I think that's great. What would be your thoughts? Because I think people, these initiatives and plans, education, we have great ideas, but many times those ideas slowly fade away. What are some things you think we could do, or things we can involve, or processes to put in place to make sure that these action steps that we're moving forward with don't fade away after that initiative ends?
Yeah, because the initiative it's challenging, it's fun, it's evolutionary on the front end, but how do you go back to being able to be sustainable? What does that look like? Because I think you have to have community buy-in for the stakeholders to see the bigger picture. So you look at it 30,000 feet up. Like once this initiative is over with, then what? And so it goes back to what does sustainable change look like? And so once that initiative is brought in to your school system, you look at the data, you look at the roadmap that you're going down, and how do you continue that momentum? And how do you continue kind of moving forward? And so I don't think you really can let off the gas pedal, if you will. Just continue to have a growth mindset in regards to, all right, we have this funding here, and this is going to kind of give us a kickstart. But how do I maintain that 5, 7, 10 years from now?
I like the words you use there, momentum. And to me, that speaks to just making small changes that lead to bigger changes, that lead to more buy-in. And as the wheel gets turning and the ball gets bigger per se, it continues to grow, and that momentum does grow. That's great. And as we've kind of touched on teacher retention, and we've touched on community and collaboration, what role do teachers play that stay long term? Do you think, and how do we get those high quality teachers to stay and sustain their involvement in our community school as well?
I think they got to understand the mission and vision of the school. A lot of times in these rural communities, the school is a social hub of all things in the community, and getting them to have that buy-in to, like, I am making a difference here. I know it may not look like a suburban or urban school, but some of the things, the economic drivers, a lot of times is the school. And so a lot of the employer in that district is from that school system as well. I mean, whether teachers, administrators, and support staff. So making sure they kind of get a buy-in of, like, the bigger picture holistically of the impact they're making when they're dealing with our students in rural environments. And it's not going to look the same as, like I said, a Vestavia or a Hoover. It's going to look different in a rural environment, but it's also going to be the social, the economic kind of hub of all things for a school. And so they get buy-in and understand the cultural or the social capital that they have by being in that system. I think they'll have a longer retention rate.
I think it's safe to say that none of us got into education to get rich.
Correct.
We kind of knew that going in. So basically what you're saying is people stay where they're happy.
Yeah.
People stay in places that they know they're making a difference. They're making a change. And just that starts from the top, the Absolutely. Leadership, ensuring that people are valued and that they're given the tools that they need to be successful. And I think even just touching on the PD component, making sure they do have training and in specific to the areas that they work in, because it's very unique. So I want to kind of keep bridging that gap that we've touched on a few times between community and school, and being able to continue to collaborate with the community and what kind of role that plays. What kind of role in your mind, like how does that vary? How does that community involvement and stakeholder involvement in a rural school community differ from that of an urban school community? And I mean, just the importance of that school in a rural community and just that community feel, to me, is so much different than an urban environment.
No, I think so. I think the stakeholders in the community, the business owners, the banks, obviously play a huge role. I think from a career and technical component, you can think globally when you think about rural communities. But you also want to think locally, like what does it look like to provide an internship, apprenticeship for a student that may be going into manufacturing or going into farming. So making sure we're giving those future-ready skills in those environments. I just think being able to kind of collaborate with the community, because like I said earlier, the school is the hub of the community, and stakeholders, you get to see the product, you get to see the rewards of your investment. I think in a rural community was just beautiful. I love that idea versus like some of our bigger districts. And so I just love the fact that you get to kind of see the buy-in and kind of see the finished product in a rural community versus a different environment.
So, and you think too, like students can be 100% involved in that. You talked about internships, apprenticeships, trying to think locally, like what is our greatest resource here? Is it farming? Is it industrial? Is it, rural can be a steel mill community, just like it can be a tomato community in Slocomb. That can mean many different things, but tailoring those supports to what our region or our environment delivers to us, and being able to see those kids go in and work and collaborate with the community, and and in turn, those people come out on Friday night. They come out to the play, the football game, the band performance. They really seem to support those kids. So a vision for thriving and empowered rural school communities. How do you see, you've touched on this earlier, and this is, I guess, empowering these communities, because they do have the opportunity to pour into these kids more than urban schools. You and I know many urban schools like FFA, that's not a thing anymore. But do you think, like, in those rural areas, FFA, FCLA, the CTE, industry credentials, those type of programs, is not necessarily the college route, but to me, are something they can kind of hang their hat on and be a little more important than what it would be in an urban school?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you talk it through rural communities, I think about place-based learning, meaning they have the unique opportunity to use local economy to kind of be a driving force, where they get real world experience. So like where in our more suburban or urban areas, everything's more in theory, right? I mean, there's some hands-on stuff there involved, but when you're able to see Mr. Johnny that runs this steel mill, or this person that runs a tomato farm or whatever, like just being able to kind of see it, give you that real world hands-on. I can see the finish line, I can see the other side. I think that's a benefit of the rural community and having rural schools.
I think that's great. And ultimately, like, and I can say this, about Slocomb specifically, those kids are proud to be a part of that community. I mean, and you'll see kids, I mean, my uncle, he's 65 years old and still talks about Friday night football games at Slocomb High School. It's a sense of pride. And I think that continues to just empower those kids to give back, when they get the opportunity to, and continue. That's a way to retain teachers, is just the community feel, and the relationships. Relationships are everything. But I want to be cognizant of your time, but I do have one final question, probably my favorite. Give us some wisdom here. If you had one message for stakeholders, parents, policymakers, teachers, whoever that may be, if you had one message to give about why rural education matters, what would you say?
Well, I think rural education matters because those populations are the fabric of not just your local, not just your town, not just your city, not just your state, but the fabric of America and our nation. So when a rural school thrives, the entire community thrives. By extension, right? The region thrives and our whole economy thrives, because not everybody's going to be doing IT. Not everybody's going to be doing engineering. I love those things, but we need farmers. We need manufacturers. We need those jobs to kind of keep the framework of our society kind of moving forward. So neglecting rural education threatens the entire geographic region. And so for us, that's why it's such an emphasis on that rural education, right? Education is education. We just have to cater to where the framework of the investment we put in our kids benefits our society. And so I definitely am a fan of rural education in those communities, because they are the fabric of our country.
For sure. Mr. Sermons, thank you. I think that's some great stuff. I look forward to episode 2. But I appreciate you hopping on here, and we'll be in touch soon.
Not a problem, Mr. Reese.
Thank you.
Have a good one.